I mean, imagine for a second that your partner cheats on you.
Okay, awful start, but I'm with you.
Right. Or, like, maybe they lie to you about something massive for months.
Yeah.
You finally confront them, you have all the receipts, the evidence is totally undeniable, and instead of apologizing, they just look you dead in the eye and say, you can't be mad at me, my therapist says I have an attachment disorder, my brain is just wired this way.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a conversation ender right there.
It is. I literally couldn't help it, they say.
Hmm.
So, welcome to the new era of manipulation.
It's incredibly effective, too, because it completely paralyzes you in the moment, you know? We are living in a time where clinical psychology has gone completely mainstream.
Yeah, therapy speak is everywhere now.
Exactly. And while having open conversations about mental health is generally a massive step forward for society, I mean, obviously, there is a very dark underside to it that nobody really wants to talk about.
Which is exactly what we are getting into today. We are doing a deep dive into this intensely eye-opening, honestly kind of controversial ebook called Diagnosis is Not Permission.
Yeah, written by an author who goes by the Jokress.
Right. And our mission today is to really unpack this uncomfortable trend where clinical vocabulary, specifically terms like NPD, which is Narcissistic Personality Disorder, BPD, Borderline Personality Disorder, or even psychopathy, are actively being weaponized in relationships.
Weaponized is the perfect word for it.
We're going to explore how a medical diagnosis is essentially being used as a shield to justify just absolute destruction, while your own best qualities might actually be the very things trapping you, and most importantly, how to reclaim your reality.
And I think it's super crucial to set the tone for this right up front. The source material we are working from today, it does not pull any punches.
No, it really doesn't.
It states some very unpopular truths cleanly, without softening the blow, and it directly challenges the modern therapy speak that we've all been, heavily conditioned to accept without question.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the author points out a fascinating, if really ugly, shift in how toxic relationships actually operate today. Like, if you look back 10 or 15 years ago, the classic manipulator line was always some variation of "look what you made me do."
Right, or "you push my buttons."
Exactly. You drove me to this. It was blame shifting, sure, but it was blatant. You could see it for what it was. But now, because everyone has this TikTok therapy vocabulary right at their fingertips, the manipulator has basically upgraded their software.
Oh, 100%.
Now, the line is, this is my disorder. I didn't choose to be this way. I'm just built this way.
Right. And notice what happens there. The actual abusive behavior, the chronic infidelity, the public humiliation, the days-long silent treatments, the gaslighting, none of that goes away.
No, it stays exactly the same.
Right. The clinical terminology hasn't replaced the abuse. It has just attached itself alongside the behavior as a sort of retroactive, bulletproof explanation.
Yeah.
And the truly insidious part is the trap it sets for you.
Yep.
Because it's framed as a medical or psychological condition, it comes with this built-in societal demand.
Oh, the demand that you have to be endlessly understand.
Exactly. You, as the partner, must respond with patience. You are suddenly dealing with a sick person.
The text outlines exactly how this plays out in real time. And it's basically this three-step sequence of dodging accountability, which they call the 3 moves.
Let's walk through those because it's so textbook.
Yeah, so let's say a major boundary is cross-like, deliberate, calculated gaslighting about finances, for example. In a normal relationship, this creates a massive conflict, right? An apology, a real reckoning.
Yeah, accountability.
Right. But here, the shield deploys immediately. First, there's the displacement of accountability. The partner says, the disorder made me do it. I have impulsive tendencies because of my ADHD or my BPD.
The responsibility literally shifts out of their body and onto the clinical label. The label becomes the scapegoat.
It's so wild to see it laid out like that.
It really is, which smoothly transitions into the second phase of the sequence.
Yeah.
Reframing you.
Reframing the partner, yeah.
Yeah. Once the problem is established as a quote-unquote disorder, the rules of engagement completely change. Society dictates that we don't punish sick people, right? We care for them.
Right, so you're not allowed to be mad anymore.
Exactly. Suddenly, you are recast from rightfully angry partner who was just betrayed to caregiver who needs to be compassionate. And if you stay angry, well, now you are the villain attacking a vulnerable person.
Oh, that makes me so mad just hearing it. Because then comes the final nail in the coffin, the third move. The license renewal.
The license renewal, this one is brutal.
They just tell you, look, this is just how I am. You accepted me. You knew about my diagnosis when you decided to stay. And just like that, the disorder becomes a permanent, ongoing permit to treat you terribly.
The underlying message there is unambiguous. It's basically saying, I am going to keep doing exactly what I am doing, and you are going to sit there quietly and absorb it, because it is now your job to manage my symptoms.
Wow.
You are drafted into being an unpaid, full-time emotional containment unit.
It honestly feels like you're playing a high-stakes game of Monopoly, right?
Mm-hmm.
And every time the other person lands on your property and owes you rent, they just casually pull a forged get-out-of-jail-free doctor's note out of their pocket and expect you to honor it.
That's a great analogy.
Every single time. But I struggle with this, though, because, if someone's brain is genuinely misfiring due to a personality disorder or trauma, telling the partner to just reject the excuse feels incredibly cold.
It does feel harsh on the surface.
Right. Aren't we supposed to support sick partners? If this is literally a form of emotional fraud, how does it so effectively trap a smart, capable person into playing the role of a free therapist?
That is exactly why it works so well. It traps smart, empathetic people because it leverages a highly effective guilt trip disguised as logic. It relies on a very specific comparison that the manipulator will often use.
Oh, you mean the wheelchair analogy?
Yes. The author calls it the wheelchair analogy.
Oh, man. If you've been in one of these dynamics, you have absolutely heard some version of this. They look at you and say, well, you wouldn't be mad at a person in a wheelchair for not being able to run a marathon, so why are you mad at me for lacking empathy or for being reactive?
And it sounds so flawlessly logical in the moment.
It totally does. It completely activates your compassion and makes you feel like an absolute monster for having any basic relationship expectations.
It sounds logical, but it is a precise, highly sophisticated lie. Let's deconstruct exactly why.
These two.
A person in a wheelchair cannot run. That is a genuine structural, physical limitation. And of course, you do not hold that against them.
Right.
But if that person repeatedly and deliberately drives their wheelchair into your shins day after day, and then points to the wheelchair and says, don't be mad, I'm disabled, that is no longer a limitation.
Oh, wow.
That is a choice made with the available tools.
That distinction is everything.
Yeah.
So the lack of empathy or the emotional dysregulation, that might be the internal limitation, but the lying, the cheating, the screaming, those are external behaviors.
Exactly. The wheelchair cannot move itself toward you to run over your foot.
Right. A person who lacks natural effective empathy is not biologically prevented from telling the truth.
Precisely. The condition itself does not produce the complex behavior of carrying on a 6-month secret affair, The choice to use the condition as a cover story is what produces the behavior.
The ebook offers a much better medical comparison to replace the wheelchair one. And I honestly love this. It compares it to having epilepsy or a stomach ulcer.
Yes, the ulcer analogy is brilliant.
Right. If you know you have a severe stomach ulcer, you don't go to a restaurant and order extra spicy chili peppers and then scream at the waiter when you throw up on the table.
Exactly.
Or if you have unmedicated epilepsy, you don't get behind the wheel of a school bus because you know your condition creates a risk to others.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it completely changes the framework of what a diagnosis actually means in a social context.
How so?
A diagnosis is not a permission slip to cause harm. It is the exact opposite. It is a strict obligation to manage your condition so that you don't destroy the people around you.
Obligation versus permission. That's huge.
If someone genuinely has Narcissistic Personality Disorder or BPD, the only adequate ethical response from them is sustained therapeutic work, daily and rigorous management of their impulses, and potentially medication.
Right.
The obligation runs toward protecting the people in your orbit, not extracting endless patience from them.
Okay, wait. Here's where it gets really interesting, though. I have to push back again.
Go for it.
Because I can hear people listening to this and thinking, if having one of these conditions requires sustained therapy, daily management, maybe medication, how do you tell the difference?
What do you mean?
Like, how do you, as the partner just sitting in your living room, know if you're dealing with someone who is genuinely struggling with a clinical illness and just failing today versus someone who has consciously decided to use their illness as a convenient excuse to be abusive?
That is the critical question of the entire text, and the author points to the most decisive hiding in plain sight evidence available.
The selective illness, right.
Yes. To figure out if it's a lack of capacity or a lack of willingness, you don't look at where the disorder appears. You look at where the disorder mysteriously fails to appear.
This part honestly gave me chills when I was reading through the sources.
It should. I mean, think about what this supposedly uncontrollable brain wiring suddenly manages to control.
Right?
You never see these grand, dish-throwing, screaming rages directed at the CEO of their company.
Well,
You don't see them deploying an icy, punishing 5-day silent treatment with a police officer who pulls them over for speeding.
never.
They don't suddenly lose their temper and start gaslighting the IRS or their key investors.
Wait, so you're telling me their brain is quote-unquote broken and incapable of emotional regulation at 6-point BMO when we're arguing about who unloads the dishwasher?
Mm-hmm.
But it works perfectly fine at 2-point PM when they're presenting to the board of directors. That makes absolutely no biological sense. If the cognitive empathy and self-regulation can perfectly read power dynamics in an office, it doesn't just biologically evaporate the second they cross the threshold of the front door.
It doesn't evaporate at all. It is intentionally switched off. Because inside the home, the cost of keeping that self-control turned on has been rapidly calculated in their brain, and they've found it unnecessary.
Wow.
What this proves, beyond a shadow of a doubt, is that the brakes work.
The brakes work.
Yes. The self-regulation is entirely available to them. The psychological condition does not remove their capacity for control. It only removes their motivation to exercise that control in contexts where they know they won't face real social or financial consequences.
So home is essentially calculated as safe for the abuse because the people there love them too much to actually enforce a consequence.
Sadly.
The closest people are the most unprotected. And that is a terrifying realization. I mean, if they are perfectly capable of calculating that they can't act this way at work because they'll get fired, does that mean every instance of abuse at home is a conscious choice and not a symptom?
It means exactly that. The brakes work, they're simply not applied where the person standing in front of them has less power.
That is heavy.
It is. And realizing that the abuse is calculated, not accidental, raises a very painful, mirror-facing question for you, the listener. Why do we tolerate it? Why do we stay in the blast radius of someone else's conscious choice?
And the answer the source material gives here is actually heartbreaking. Because typically, society tells victims they stay because they have low self-esteem, or they are weak, or they just have quote-unquote daddy issues.
Right, a lot of victim blaming.
A ton of it. But this text points the finger not at our weakness, but at our absolute best quality. It introduces this concept of inverted empathy.
This is a profound reframe.
Yeah.
So empathy is the capacity to feel someone else's pain, right? It is the glue of human connection. It's what makes you a good supportive partner.
Yeah, normally it's a great thing to have.
Exactly. But in this specific dynamic, that beautiful pro-social quality gets hijacked and entirely redirected. Instead of your empathy flowing toward your own very real pain, your own exhaustion, your own betrayals, it flows entirely toward your abuser's diagnosed condition.
Right. It's like you are bleeding, but you are worried about the person holding the knife because you know they had a tough childhood.
What's fascinating here is the visual the author creates. You are standing in the smoldering ruins of your own well-being, actively feeling sorry for the person who set the fire.
Oh, man.
That isn't empathy anymore. It's inverted empathy. You become a human emotional container. Your entire purpose is to absorb the damage while simultaneously acting as the defense attorney for the predator.
And we have to talk about the physical toll of playing that role, because it isn't just feeling sad or being stressed.
Oh, absolutely not. It's physiological.
Yes, let's get into the actual biology of this, because mental violence leaves very real wounds. They might be invisible, they don't show up on a standard hospital x-ray, but the biological reality of living in this container role is undeniable. The text goes deep into the mechanism of the hormonal collapse you experience. Like, why does it feel like you are literally dying when you try to leave? Because physiologically, your body is going through something identical to drug withdrawal.
Yes, the mechanism is trauma bonding. Your brain gets addicted to the unpredictable cycles of abuse and rescue.
The highs and the lows.
Exactly. When they are raging or giving you the silent treatment, your cortisol, your stress hormone spikes to dangerous fight or flight levels. Your amygdala is screaming that you are in danger.
Right.
But then comes the apology phase, or just, the breadcrumbing of affection, and your brain is suddenly flooded with dopamine. Over months and years, your nervous system becomes chemically dependent on this roller coaster.
And it wrecks your body. You're dealing with systemic inflammation, clinical depression, complex PTSD. People develop autoimmune disorders because their immune system is fundamentally burnt out from years of sustained cortisol elevation.
The damage is clinical. It is a medical crisis. And this brings up a brilliant piece of observational truth the author calls the domestic exception.
Oh, I love this part.
It's so clear. Imagine a person who knows they have a severe contagious condition that causes them to violently attack people. They refuse all medication. They walk out onto a busy public street and they just start attacking strangers.
Right, just swinging at people.
What happens? Society would intervene immediately. The police would come, an ambulance would come. We would remove the threat from the public. But when the exact same dynamic happens behind closed doors between people who are legally and socially entangled, society largely looks away.
It's so true. I mean, if I walk into a grocery store and start screaming obscenities at the cashier, I'm getting arrested. But if I do it in my living room to my partner is just told by their couples counselor that they need to practice better active listening and hold space for my triggers.
Exactly.
It's the domestic exception. You are completely on your own until the situation escalates to a literal life or death threshold. It's like being poisoned slowly every single day while everyone around you, including society, keeps telling you that the poisoner had a really rough childhood, so you should really just be more understanding about the arsenic.
That's a haunting way to put it, but it's accurate.
So how does a person validate their own invisible clinical wounds when society and their own partner are actively minimizing them?
To validate those wounds, and frankly, to survive the poisoning, you have to do something that feels incredibly counterintuitive and deeply painful.
What's that?
You have to intentionally kill the hope.
Ugh, that is easily the hardest truth in the entire text, killing the hope.
It's devastating.
Because the hope is the only thing keeping you going, right? You think, if I just love them correctly enough, they'll change.
Yeah.
If I'm just consistent enough, the real them, the person I met in the first 3 months, will permanently emerge.
Right. The illusion of potential.
But the brutal reality laid out here is that you cannot love someone into healing from a structural personality disorder. Love is a beautiful thing, but it is simply not the correct tool for this job. You can't love away a broken leg, and you can't love away a lack of empathy.
Hope is the most expensive thing in these relationships. It's the currency that keeps you buying into a future that will never arrive. It keeps you staying years past the point of objective clarity.
Yeah.
But genuine change for these personality structures, NPD, BPD, psychopathy, requires the person themselves to contact their own deep internal shame. They have to endure sustained therapeutic discomfort, often for years.
And let's do it alone.
Yes. They have to choose that agonizing work every single day. And here is the hardest pill to swallow. Your presence or your absence is not the variable that determines whether they make that decision. You are not that powerful over their internal landscape.
So what does this all mean for the person listening right now? If love isn't the tool and hope is just a leak draining your life force, what is the actual tactical move here?
You can't just keep absorbing the hits.
Right. The source material details what it calls the only adequate response to someone who uses their diagnosis as a license to damage you while refusing to manage it. And that response is total, complete withdrawal of your resources.
Exactly. That means your attention is withdrawn, your care is redirected back to yourself, your tolerance is ended, your physical and emotional presence is removed.
Total cutoff.
Yes. And it's vital to understand the motivation behind this. This withdrawal is not a punishment. It's not a cruel retaliation, and it is definitely not an ultimatum designed to finally make them change.
It's not about them anymore.
Right. It is simply a neutral, accurate reflection of what is available to someone who refuses to safely manage themselves. The message is simply, nothing is available.
But practically speaking, I mean, if every point of contact, even an argument, even trying to sit down and logically explain why you're leaving, is just a new opportunity for them to extract emotional supply from you.
Which it is.
Right. So how does a person actually withdraw their energy? Especially when their nervous system has been systematically programmed by guilt to stay in that caretaking container role for years.
That is the real challenge. Understanding the dynamic intellectually is only the first step. Deprogramming your own hijacked nervous system is the actual work. You have to recognize that the guilt wasn't organically yours to begin with.
It was installed.
Yes, it was installed by the manipulator to keep you manageable.
And this is where the source material shifts from theory into absolute tactical survival. Because the author, the Jokress, didn't just write a breakdown of the problem. She included massive, highly practical guides specifically designed to break the subconscious programming that keeps you physically paralyzed.
Yes, the text provides actionable methods for reclaiming your resources and discharging that stored trauma from your body.
For example, it outlines a full 9-round EFT tapping protocol.
EFT is amazing for this.
It really is. If you don't know what EFT is, it stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques. It actually uses physical tapping on specific acupressure points on your body to literally short-circuit your nervous system's fight-or-flight stress response.
It breaks the chemical loop we talked about earlier.
Exactly. There are also deep shadow work prompts, which are journaling exercises to help you uncover the unconscious reasons why you accepted the container role in the first place, and one-on-one reprogramming questions to systematically clear out that installed guilt.
Those tools are essential because you cannot logic your way out of a physiological trauma bond. You have to process it out of the body.
Exactly. We really want to emphasize this. If you found yourself nodding along today, or if you feel like you've been forced into playing that free therapist role and you realize you need the actual practical tools to break out of it, there is a way out.
Absolutely.
Check out the description of this deep dive right now for more details about the tools and techniques we mentioned today. The resources are there, and they are designed to help you take your life back.
Your diagnosis of your own reality based on the persistent observable behavior you've endured over time is valid. You do not need their permission to protect yourself.
Perfectly said.
And this raises an important question, something for you to deeply consider as we wrap up today. We've spent this entire time talking about the abuser's mask and their wiring. But what if you finally take your eyes off of them?
Oh, I like where this is going.
If you withdraw your energy, if you stop playing their therapist, and you redirect 100% of that profound compassion back into your own life, who are you underneath the container you were forced to become?